show. Well, who would have thought Orbx made its way into Spain? Interesting stuff. Hey, it's Bilbao in 2017, and we are heading over there right now, so stand by. So this is an interesting one. So I intended to do this live stream last night. Actually, not last night, the night before last. And I realized that there's actually another scenery, third-party payware scenery, just a very short distance from Bilbao. And I thought it would be an excellent opportunity to show off both of these. So if you recall, there's a developer called Akesoft, or at least that's how I think it's pronounced, AKE Soft, Akesoft. And I'd been using Akesoft freeware for years, dating back to FS9, like probably maybe like 10 years ago, something like that. I used to do flights from the old Simwings France Airports Volume 2 or 3 or 4, whatever it was. They had Biarritz in that package, if you guys remember that back in FS9. And I would do flights from there to a little airport called Foronda, which is probably, I don't know, maybe 30 miles south of Bilbao, something like that. And I would do little turboprop flights back and forth between those two airports. And so I thought, oh, I'll do a flight from there, because I've never seen the scenery outside of the Orbx development previews. Which is interesting. I've only seen the development previews. I've never actually seen the scenery itself. So this is the first time I've actually loaded up the scenery in Flight Simulator. So I realized, okay, so I'm going to fly in during the stream from another airport, so that way we can all kind of see it for the first time together, for those of you who don't have the scenery yet. And then I realized, wait a minute, they did another scenery not too long ago. They did Santander, which is a very large city, and it's even closer to Bilbao than Foronda is. So, or Foronda, I don't know how you pronounce that. But so I decided I'd take off from there, and then I realized that Jordy from Akesoft had sent me the scenery. So, night before last, it's taking me 5 hours to figure out how to get the damn scenery to work. I guess it's a common issue with the installer, that the installer doesn't install properly. Now, naturally, I'm using it in version 3 of Prepared. It was designed for version 2. But apparently, this common issue is in both version 2 and version 3, or, in version 2 anyway. So I went over to the forums and saw that there were a number of people having the same issue. And but unfortunately, the support was only provided through direct email, and unfortunately, I never got a response to the email that I sent them. So that's unfortunate when it comes to product support and flight simulation, when support just isn't handled flat out on the forum, which I believe in the whole show your order number or whatever it is in order to get support sort of thing. But anyway, so I'm not going to be able to show off that scenery, unfortunately, because and then I looked and realized that the scenery was released in 2014. And for some reason, I thought it was released last year. So I don't know why. It's amazing how fast time kind of flies. So I was kind of hoping to show off some Akesoft scenery, because between Simwings and Akesoft, those are the two original developers that are really responsible for me ever having decided to explore Spain in the first place 10 or 15 years ago, when a lot of these sceneries were first getting released. Wow, I think it might have been like close to 15 years ago when Simwings released a lot of those old Spanish airports as well. So really, really long time. So a lot of the focus as of late for Spain has been in Barcelona, and I know a lot of people are probably wondering, when am I going to get around to the Latin VFR Barcelona scenery? And what I decided to do, because there's 3 versions of this airport, which in the period of 1 year, by the way, in the same year, we're getting 3 versions of the same airport. And at most, I think we've only ever really seen 2, which would be Heathrow, I think, as an example. So I decided, you know what, this would be a very interesting stream to show off all three of these airports at once and kind of look at the three and pull the pros and cons of all three. And, you know, you all can kind of decide, I guess, which one suits your needs best or which one you think is the best one. So that's what I kind of decided for that. So I've held off on heading down to Barcelona yet. I kind of was hoping that the Symwings version would be along already, but what did they say? I think is it expected end of July, or I'm not really sure. So hopefully, if they're able to get that out this month, I'll be able to get around to that stream this month because I think that one's going to be absolutely fantastic. But here we are in the north of Spain, the far north, and when Orbx, and I usually know what's going on kind of behind the scenes. With Orbx and stuff that they're developing, but sometimes I don't. And for me, that's actually a good thing because that gives me an opportunity to be surprised. So rarely these days am I surprised with Orbx sceneries, and it even makes another point because when Misha had released Agua Dulce, he purposefully made it a point to make sure that I wasn't aware of the development just so that I could be surprised because I always kind of seem to know what's going on. So in the case with Bilbao, I was definitely very much surprised when this one was announced. And I thought, wow, this is definitely a different direction that Orbx has been going in as of late with Orlando and San Diego and now, of course, Bilbao, Spain. So very interesting stuff, and I'm very excited to finally be taking a look at the scenery. I don't know if it's just me or if my eye point keeps like slewing over to the left here. So I'm very excited to take a look at the scenery. So in the nature of my streams, I haven't actually seen anything yet. I haven't even fired it up to make sure it's installed properly. I'm just assuming and sort of relying on FTX Central to do that for me. I see there's a boat down here. And my global AI ships is not activated right now because I've got some of my AI aircraft are still native FS9 models, and I know that they can be converted. The problem is the converter tool, that AIFF or whatever it's called, you can only do one file at a time. And there's like how many traffic files are in there? There's maybe 100 or something, and to do that one at a time, I realize I'm just too lazy to do that. So I haven't decided to do that yet. So unfortunately, I can never seem to get my AI traffic and my AI ships ever together at the same time. So at some point, I'm going to have to get away from this custom AI package, traffic package that I use, and get onto something that's a little bit more official. That's really designed to be used in native FSX and prepared. I want to see if I can land on this little helipad here. I see there's a helipad down there. The only problem with this helicopter is there's no glass. So I can never seem to see where I'm landing here. Whoa. It's really hard to see where I'm landing with this helicopter because there's no glass underneath my feet. Which is something that I'm accustomed to with a lot of my favorite aircraft. Let's see if I can nail it now. So this is a custom ship sitting out here. Not animated though. Which would have been, let's see here if I can, ooh, that was kind of tough. That was a tough landing there. At least I got it on the circle though. It would have been nice if these were animated though. It's much more fun to land on ships that are moving as opposed to static. So a happy Thursday. Is it Thursday already? Oh my gosh, it's Thursday already. Happy Thursday morning, afternoon, evening to everyone. And 80 Knots is saying he didn't get the email from Twitch. That sucks, because that's the only reason why I have that whole 7 minutes worth of useless video at the beginning of every stream, is to make sure that Twitch has enough time to send everyone emails. So sorry to hear that. And he says he was on the cargo ship in Bilbao last week, so went to the Guggenheim. During the day, we were in port, came back home yesterday, crossed the Bay of Biscay twice to Bilbao. So I'm actually hoping that Guggenheim is in there, of course, developed by one of my favorite architects, Frank Gehry. And we have our own architecture here in Los Angeles, very similar to that, the Walt Disney Concert Hall in downtown LA. Unfortunately, I never go there because even though I live in Los Angeles, I'm not very much of a fan of the city. I'm much of a fan of New York. So, yeah, there's a few key places in LA that have architecture that I love. The Walt Disney Concert Hall is certainly one of them. The other one would be the Getty Museum. The Guggenheim, of course. It's that museum in Bilbao that actually made me a fan of Frank Gehry, believe it or not. I thought that architecture is incredibly different from anything that I had ever seen. And I think I came across that back in the 90s and was very impressed with it. So that's what put him on my radar. In fact, he has, I don't know if you guys have heard of this masterclass program that you can buy into. It's called Masterclass. You can go online. And I think it's $100 a course. And you've got a lot of people, like, for example, Kevin Spacey. He does a course on acting. And there's one guy, he's a famous director. He does a course on directing. I think, what's his name? The guy that took over Star Wars, the Han Solo movie, because that's another freaking disaster right now. Opie Taylor from the Andy Griffith Show. What is his name, that director? Anyway, he does one, the redhead guy. I don't know why I can't seem to pull his name out of a hat. He does one. So a lot of famous people, they hold these little different courses, online courses that you can kind of take. And so anyway, Frank Gehry does one. And so I've been really looking forward to actually purchasing that. You know, I don't know what I can learn in terms of architectural design, but it's definitely going to be interesting kind of getting in his head a little bit and sort of learning his thought processes in terms of how he designs his really wacky buildings, which I think a lot of people see them as really weird and kind of wacky architecture. You know, I'm definitely a fan of them. So, and not only that, but my engagement ring was actually designed by him. So that's also a very cool thing as well. He actually designed my engagement ring. So a huge fan of Frank Gehry, and he actually doesn't live too far from me. He actually lives about 2 miles from where I live, in sort of situated right in between Venice and Santa Monica here in Southern California. So huge fan of Frank Gehry. So I am definitely looking forward to making sure that they put that into the scenery, because again, I haven't seen any of the scenery yet. This is my first time seeing any of this, and I made it a point to not even start the stream at this airport. Like, you know, I always try to get everything prepared before I hit. Ron Howard, thank you, Chris. Ron Howard, that's the director I was thinking of. Yeah, so I usually just fire things up on the active runway and try to find an eye point, but this time around I actually decided I would not start in the scenery at all, that I'd start somewhere outside the scenery and fly in and see everything for the first time and kind of give you my thoughts as we start to, now that we're officially in the coverage area here. Kind of looking at the coloration of the photo reel here, it looks kind of, what's that word? Sepia tone-esque. It's like a sepia tone. So we've gotten the entire harbor area here, just shy of the airfield. And one of the things that I really loved about this airport, so my first version of Bilbao was from Tropical Sim, and I've got to say that was one of the sceneries that they did extremely well. And the reason why I purchased that was because, you know, again, I'm a fan of architecture, and I think we're probably going to get into a lot of that lately. I'm a huge fan of architecture, and the architecture of the main airport terminal, which is called the Dove, by the way, is what really attracted me to it. And Tropical Sim actually did an excellent job creating that airport for FS9. I can't remember if that scenery was compatible with FSX or not. It's actually a really good question. Ian's asking if I got his email. Is this the Ian from Black Box at FlightSimCon? If it is, yes, I did. Thank you. And I'm going to include those what is it, Bird Dogs versus Bird Dog. I'm trying to decide what scenery I'm going to do it in now, because my initial plan was to put that in the Kern Valley live stream. So now I've got to decide what's going to be a good stream to put those in. So yeah, that's definitely immediately on my my list. And Chris is saying, like the way that reminds me you did SFO HD. I'm not sure what he's saying there. Oh, well, Ian, good to see you. It was nice meeting you at FlightSimCon, by the way. I hope you had a good time there. You know, the whole thing was kind of a blur for me, FlightSimCon 2017, because, as always, I'm running around trying to conduct all these interviews, and you know, it's like I never actually get to just enjoy the conference itself. In fact, I've never been able to just enjoy Flight Sim Con, because I'm always busy running around and conducting interviews. So my fun always happens after hours. The fun is always after hours. But I'm actually planning on attending Cosford. I haven't gotten all my plans officially nailed down yet, but if I do, I thought about that. Am I going to run around with a camera conducting interviews? And I haven't decided if I'm going to actually do that or not, or if I'm just going to be an attendee and enjoy a flight simulation conference for once. So I'm thinking along those lines. I might bring a camera, just because it's nice to document these things. But I might, for once, just attend something as an enthusiast. So I haven't fully decided that yet. We're actually making our way now into the proper, or Bilbao proper, here, situated in these mountains. And I see there the one lonely skyscraper or high-rise is in there, and the Guggenheim should be coming up pretty soon here. I'm definitely looking forward to that. I know in the in my news articles that I've been writing about the scenery, certain key things that definitely should be in the scenery, and that's one of them. There it is. There it is. Definitely liking the skyscraper here. That's really nicely done. The Guggenheim was definitely added in here. Oh, it looks so bland, though. It doesn't. I mean, it's here, but it doesn't. I don't know. Why is the coloration so bland? Where's the reflective? What's the word I'm looking for? By the way, it's a little early for me, so just keep in mind. The specular mapping, the shine, it doesn't pop. It's not vibrant. It's just like, all right, we did it, we put it in there, but it's I don't know. I mean, I'm glad at least that it's here, but it's not really. I'm biased, so number one, I am a little bit biased here. Boy, that house on that hill is pretty big, isn't it? That looks a little bit disproportionate. That's a big house in comparison to the Guggenheim here. It's a big house up on that hill. I just, I think that there should have been a little bit more effort here. This was very just kind of toss it together and throw it in there. I mean, if you're going to do a city to accompany the airport, obviously the landmarks are the most important thing. So those are the key areas I think that you would put a little extra focus and effort into, especially because this is such a key figure in the scenery. Chris is saying maybe a copyright thing. Well, I mean, if it's a copyright thing, you don't put it in at all. I mean, as far as the shape of it, the shape of it is probably as good as it's going to get. Now, I'm fine with that. I'm just talking about making it a little bit more vibrant, giving it some dynamic shine and, making it pop a little bit. Like if you look at Fly Tampa Dubai as an example of the city, you can see how the landmarks just really, really are reflective of that city. So in this case, there's not that many landmarks that you would notice from a VFR perspective here. But this is definitely probably the most important one. So in this case, it's just very sort of low resolution texture and not very much put into it other than the design, which probably had to have been quite a pain in the ass in 3ds Max to try to with all the polygons that this building has. I'm sure that was probably a pain enough as it was to try to just render it in general. But I would have liked to have seen that just to be a little bit more vibrant. There's another building here in front that's just kind of that was sort of left to the photoreal imagery there. So I'm glad it's there, but I'm not really impressed with the building itself. Moving on, the next part that I'm going to point out, which is actually quite disappointing, is the Autogen itself. It's almost kind of making me wonder why any of this was done to begin with, because you look at the photoreal imagery, unless something wasn't installed properly, and maybe I need to go back and look at the preview imagery to see if this was actually installed properly, because you look at the type of architecture, which is sort of the standard architecture for anywhere in any mainland European city, more or less, especially for Spain. And what we're kind of wound up with is these sort of generic buildings that are not at all reflective of the architecture and the way that Bilbao is laid out. It's not. This is not reflecting that at all. To give an example, in contrast, if you look at that freeware, go back to the stream that I did on Taxi to Gate, Charles de Gaulle, and that was sort of a 2-for-2 stream where I showed off this Paris Intramuros or something like that. I can't remember. It's a freeware scenery for Paris, and it is an amazing freeware scenery. If you think back to France VFR and the Parisian scenery that they've done, this one is actually probably, if not better, definitely just as good, and it's a freeware. I think it's called Paris Intramuros or something like that. If you just run a search on ADX, or if you go back and you look at that stream that I did on Taxi to Gate, Charles de Gaulle, they created buildings, and a lot of them are generic buildings. They did all of the landmarks, which is great. But a lot of the buildings, you can kind of get away with a generic building that at least has the look, the shape, and the form of, the quintessential Parisian building, if you will. And it was captured well because from a VFR perspective, it looks the way that it essentially should look. And in this case, it doesn't at all. These basically look like, I don't know, some kind of, countryside ranch houses that have been plopped over photoreal. And it maybe from high elevation, or, if you're on the other side of the hill coming and going in an A320, maybe it's not that big a deal. But, the whole purpose of all of this is for the VFR immersion. And, from this perspective, it just doesn't appear to have been captured very well at all. Other than the fact that the color of the rustic shingles look from the sky, I suppose. But ultimately, it just doesn't look very good from here. And bad_dev is saying you're correct. That's not our best work ever. And the center spike things you mentioned will be okay. So the developer is here. Okay, I'm not sure which of the two developers, because there's two developers here that worked on this scenery, and I should pull up their names so I make sure I get it right. Okay, so this is something that they're looking to add as a service pack. Okay, well, I'm definitely happy with that. So at the very least, we got the airport done, and this is something that looks like it's going to come in a future update. I'm totally cool with that. And then, of course, to point out as well, the main sports, I'm not even sure what it's called, but the main sports arena included in there as well. Now, I will go as far as to say this is certainly a lot more done than what was in the original Tropical Sim version. I can't remember how much Tropical Sim did in that scenery, but if memory serves me correctly, I think it was really just sort of limited to the airfield itself, which we're actually coming up to just off to our left here. The photoreal coloration, definitely a lot more green over here, which is nice. And then, of course, we have to also make sure we take a look at the winter textures, because I do believe it does snow quite a bit in this part of Spain during the winter season, if memory serves me correctly. So the last time that I've been in this region of Spain in Flight Simulator was in FS9. I have not really had much of a reason to come back here in P3D. We still haven't received, I think, a Payware Biarritz that I can think of. Wait a minute, I think someone did do a Biarritz, didn't they? I don't know. I cover so much news, even I don't know what I cover, or maybe what I even miss. I for some reason, I seem to remember someone wanting to do a Biarritz, and I know that for a time Latin VFR was planning on doing one, and I don't know if they're still doing that or not. That's a good question. I remember those conversations being a long time ago. Yeah, I can't remember if someone's doing Biarritz or not, but that was my key French airport. And then, of course, if you go even further back, what was the name of that group? FS Add-on. I can't remember the last time FS Add-on has released something outside of that really lovely Avro Anson that they released, which is really good. If you don't have the FS Add-on Avro Anson, you should definitely grab that airplane. It is absolutely fantastic. I love that airplane. But anyway, yeah, they did a nice what's the name of that airport over there in France? Oh man, my brain is really just not working out for me this morning. Is it Grenoble? I want to say it was Grenoble. They did a really excellent Grenoble scenery for FS9. So I would run flights out from Grenoble over to Biarritz and then down into Ferranda, and that pretty much made up my sort of France to Spain flights for short to medium haul, or really short haul turboprop flying. I would fly. Remember Eric Cantu? Does that name ring a bell to a lot of people? Eric Cantu? No, it wasn't Courchevel. I'm pretty sure it was Grenoble. Because Courchevel, that was done by LLH Creations. And speaking of that, to get on a further sidetrack, Gaia Simulations is doing a Courchevel now too. So we have to get an update on that pretty soon. But anyway, yeah, Eric Cantu, he did a nice Brasilia. Speaking of Brasilias, I guess we're never going to get that one from Razbam, huh? That's too bad. So you're kind of flying around, taking a look at the coverage area here, and you can kind of see now where the blending starts to occur with OpenLC Europe. The blending here, actually, for an Orbx product, additionally, is actually a little bit shocking. Developers work really hard. Third-party, non-Orbx third-party developers tend to work really hard in making sure that everything blends in almost seamlessly with FTX Global and the OpenLC series. So it's actually kind of shocking to see such a stark contrast for an Orbx product blending in with Orbx OpenLC. You can definitely see here. We're in July right now. I think the date that I chose is July 13th. And you can see the photoreal contrast between OpenLC is really shocking, given the fact that these are both Orbx products. Coverage area actually extends over this hill as well. It goes a lot further off to the south, sort of the southwest here. But that's actually kind of shocking, because if you go back and you look at like Flightbeam and Fly Tampa and a lot of developers, they really do go out of their way to make sure that it's almost impossible. A prime example of that would be the Digital Design Leipzig, which, by the way, you definitely should get if you're a fan of European airports, especially Germany. That Leipzig is insane. Oh my gosh, my boy Evgeny really hit that one way out of the park. Love that guy. But again, one of the things that I pointed out in that stream is you really can't tell where OpenLC ends and where the scenery coverage area begins. You don't see it. And here, it's quite obvious. So when you're flying into this area, you're definitely going to see the scenery coverage area begin. So I think that's just a bit interesting, that this is an Orbx airport, that it's not blending in seamlessly, that I can actually see where the seam is. So this is something I would assume may come in a future maybe update, or if this is pretty much the standard for this. So from this altitude now, we can kind of get an idea of just how far the scenery coverage area is, as it stretches from the sort of the, let me see, this is kind of an odd direction here. I got to take a look at my HSI. I guess as it sort of stretches out to the sort of the northwest, I suppose. So it kind of goes from an easterly direction, sort of an east-west direction, something like that. So yeah, very interesting on the blending here, and it's greener if you notice, and this is very interesting as well. It's greener further out to the east, and then as you work your way to westerly, then it starts to get a little brownish in coloration, and then a little bit brownish with OpenLC as well. And Fukusim is, FS. I'm not know how I'm pronouncing the name here. FSUK Sim. I'm like Fukusim. FSUK Sim. Saying Eric Cantu is a legend. Yeah, man, that guy delivered a lot of freeware stuff. In fact, I think was he part of the Tin Moose team? Did I read somewhere about that? The Tin Moose is now like P3D V4 compatible or something. I thought I read that somewhere. I have all this new stuff that I'm like kind of looking at in the background, and I think I saw somewhere that some 737 he did was someone had made it compatible. I don't know if that's the Tin Moose thing or not. I have to go back and try to remember that. But yeah, he made that Brasilia, and I used to fly that thing around a lot. So Yeah, the old days of 2D panels, man. I remember, it's funny, I remember, when developers really started getting into doing internal modeling and how much people were against that. I remember back in the day when I started talking about 3D VCs and people were like, no, people still like their 2D panels and VCs are too complicated and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, there was really this whole group of people who were like vehemently staunch on 2D panel flying. And I'm just like, wow. I think my first 3D VC aircraft was the Captain Sim 757 because I'm such a huge fan of the 757. And I just had to have one. And so I used to fly with the Captain Sim, and I would fly with the 2D panel they had with that. And then one day I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to use my hat switch and just fly around the VC, like VFR fly and just do approaches, shoot approaches and stuff. And what I realized was like, man, you know what? I started getting good at it. And then it wasn't until something like 6 years ago or something where my wife bought Track IR for my birthday. Because she's like, I don't understand why you don't use Track IR. You should use it. And then I'm like, well, I don't know. That thing is weird. And, and then she bought it. And then I hated myself that Track IR had been out for so many years. And I never gave it a chance. So now when any technology comes out, I try not to be biased towards it or think negatively towards it. I've got this Tobii eye track thing here underneath my computer. And to this day, I've still never used it. When I got it, I had so many problems getting it to work. It wouldn't interface with Prepared, and it needed so many updates. And I went back and forth with the developers a lot of times, and eventually I kind of gave up. And I've kept it attached to my computer monitor as a reminder that I really do need to get this thing working. And I still haven't taken the time to do that. So at some point, in fact, it's funny because I have about 20 minutes of video footage and a review of the unboxing and the setup, and then it never worked. So I've got all this video footage on my hard drive of unboxing and setting it up and never actually having used it. So anyway, yeah, the wife is a keeper. Let's see, she bought the Warthog HOTUS, and that was Christmas of whatever year that first came out. I have video of that, and maybe one day I will show it to you guys. She bought that. I had no idea she bought it. I think she had been like kind of spying over my shoulder. I kept going to the Thrustmaster website and looking at it because I kept waiting for when it was going to be released, because I think they were showing off previews of this thing like a year before it was released. And so, yeah, our kid actually videotaped me opening the box, and it was heavy, and I'm like, oh my God, what could this be? And she bought it like in November, and so it sat before the tree even got here, which is even funny, I think. But yeah, it sat wrapped up in the box, and it was heavy, and that was, man, that was a torturous Christmas, because I had to know what the hell was in that damn box. And so anyway, I was almost on the brink of tears. There's actual video of that. Maybe one day I will show it. What year was that? Was that like 2010 or so? What year did this thing come out? Was it 2011? I don't even remember. But yeah, oh man, that was a big one. So anyway, I've already dropped hints that it's time for 4K, and I don't want any. Anyway, I'm eyeballing some really expensive monitors here. I will not buy a TV. A lot of you guys, I know you sim on TVs, and TVs just doesn't cut it. And a lot of people have asked me my opinion on that. Do you recommend a TV? I've been looking at this TV or that TV. All I recommend is if you're gonna buy a 4K television to use with Flight Simulator. Flight Simulator is not bad because you really don't need a high, what do they call that? The input rate. And there's two things you have to look for when you buy a TV, and you're going to use it for gaming. One has to do with the input. Is it the input lag? One's input lag, and then the other one is there's one more. I forgot what the other one is. And those rating numbers need to be low. So if you go to rratings.com, they actually do testings of every TV basically on the market. They will test these TVs, and they'll give you the ones that have like the highest refresh rates and the lowest input lags and so on and so forth. So when it comes to Flight Simulator, I mean, the average FPS and stuff that we usually get, is maybe 60 is usually the highest, maybe 70. If you're, over the open ocean, and if you're in a heavy scenery area, maybe you get around 30 to 40. Those TVs can handle that pretty well. So when it comes to flight simulator, you can get away with almost any TV. You can go to Walmart and buy a TCL or whatever brand TV and kind of use that as a monitor. But I do a lot of gaming. I love gaming. And even though a lot of the gaming that I used to do on 2D monitors, like for example, any race car game, I will not buy now unless it has an Oculus version. So the only race car games that I play anymore is Dirt Rally and Project Cars. What's that other one? Assetto Corsa. I bought that and refunded it within like an hour. That game is terrible. People kept telling me you gotta get Assetto Corsa. It's the best game ever. It's so much more realistic. That game looks like a freaking cartoon. Anyway, so they made it for Oculus, and I'm like, great, finally I can get this Assetto Corsa. Turned out to be one of the worst. I'm sorry, I said must because I'm looking at FK Sim's thing there. Turned out to be one of the worst car games ever, and the thing looked like a freaking cartoon, and it was absolutely terrible. I'm circling the airport because I want to get all this rant out before I get to the airport. But yeah, it turned out to be one of the worst car games I'd ever played, and I think I had it for about 3 or 4 hours, and then I refunded it on Steam. Which, by the way, that's one of the great things of Steam, because like SimMarket, they sell a lot of junk in comparison to a lot of the great stuff that they sell. But at least with Steam, you can get that crap refunded if it's junk, and I've refunded a lot of crap on Steam. So anyway, I don't have to be too afraid to try things out anymore. So yeah, I refunded that game. So now I'm only down to 2, and then Dirt came out with Dirt 4. And then they said, well, we're going to wait. We're going to do it for PSVR, which who the hell has this PSVR garbage? Anyway, we're going to wait and see if it does well on PSVR before we release it for Oculus and HTC. And I'm like, really? You're going to determine if that toy does well before you release it out to the real VR goggle crowd? Come on. Come on. Be smart. Just release the damn VR version. I mean, Dirt Rally is a game that's like, 4 years old, and how many people are still playing that? Here's an example. So Dirt Rally still has these, you can go online and you can still do like time trials against other people. So I was like, okay, what's the current online championship? And Calvin, you're watching the stream? Holy crap, dude, what's up? He's telling me turn on the holopilot. I'm making my passenger sick. I'm sorry. Should I go into... Oh, am I making you guys dizzy here? Anyway, what happened? So, yeah, they released Dirt 4, and then they're like, they're not going to release it for Oculus yet. So anyway, that pisses me off because I ain't bought that game yet. Anyway, okay, let me get off this rant and let's get over to the airport. I didn't realize Calvin was watching, dude. What's up, man? Awesome. From Elite Simulation Solutions in Orlando, Florida. That's my boy. All right, let's get around to the airport now. Quickly. Oh, wow, you're on a 55. Well, I want 40. So that's the thing, is no one really makes a proper 40-inch yet. I think LG just made one, but I looked at the stats on it, and it really wasn't all that great. So the one that's leading the pack right now is this Asus Adobe RGB. I think it's a 32-inch. And that's like the one that's leading the pack because the input lag on that thing is like 5 seconds or something. Like, it's super fast. It's got that flicker reduction thing, which is great because, you stare at a flickering monitor. I do have my Gunner eyewear, which I'm not wearing right now, which I should be wearing because that cuts out a lot of those UV blues and stuff that are apparently really bad for your eyes, and it kind of blocks out a lot of that flickering stuff too. If you guys have never heard of Gunners, I did do a review on them, and everyone that I've recommended Gunners to, they all swear by them. So that was one, whenever I recommend something, I've never heard someone come back and say you recommended this and it turned out to be crap. But if you don't have Gunners, definitely look into it. They're glasses that are designed for staring at LCD screens for long periods of time, and I actually bring them to the movie theater too. It's pretty awesome. But anyway, yeah, you should definitely check out Gunners. They're terrific eyewear, and they help cut out a lot of that crap. And Calvin has one too. He's like, I love my pair. Yeah, they're great. They are really, really great glasses. So, but with these new screens that Asus has been working on, they've been kind of embedding a lot of that technology into the monitor. And then I love my photography. I do a lot of photography, so they're really good in terms of like Lightroom and stuff because of the Adobe RGB. Good for video editing and stuff. And I like a high monitor. I don't like those really narrow widescreen monitors. I don't like that. I like almost my whole field of vision to be covered. So anyway, I like a 40-inch. I've been kind of holding out, but you know, Asus, they sold out of that monitor last year. And it retails for I think $1,300 or $1,400. They sold out last year for Christmas time, so I didn't get it last Christmas. Hoping to get it this year. So you know, I've kind of made it clear to the wifey, you know, that's what I want. It's between that and the Sony Walkman or whatever it is. That's like $1,000. The Sony Walkman, that this MP3 player. Because my Zune HD, which she bought for Christmas, that was when we were in New York. She bought that for Christmas, I think in like 2009 or something, or 2008. And so now my Zune HD battery is dying, and I don't think I can get it replaced. So now it's time to get a new MP3 player. So. And I don't need a second iPhone to carry in my pocket, so there's no point in getting the iPod or whatever that is. So, all right, sorry about all of that. We're here now, taking a look at the airport. Let's go ahead and actually, I'm going to land the helicopter, and then we'll go into Oculus mode. Not Oculus. I call it drone mode. So anyway, yeah, still investigating screens, and I hope to find a nice 40. There's a really nice Samsung 40-inch. It looks beautiful, but it's a TV. It's not really a monitor. So anyway, and as far as all of the settings go for the airport, I have elected to have all of the settings on in the control panel, whatever you call it. All the settings are definitely on. So everything here is with everything on. So we're looking at statics. I don't know if my AI is on or not, so let me make sure to turn it on if it isn't, just in case. And by the way, the big 900-pound gorilla in the room, my Sibwings Dolphin here. This is, you notice I used this during the Flightbeam MSP live stream, and I just love this helicopter. I bought this puppy. It went on sale. I think it was a Father's Day sale or something like that. And I love this helicopter. I mean, just in real life in general, I love this helicopter. And so, you know, you guys know usually during my streams, I'm always flying my my Nimith AW902. Not 902. That one too, but not that one. Is it 902? I think it is a 902. I don't know. Anyway, my Nimith Milviz helicopters. And this one's kind of replaced that. That helicopter is really old, and this puppy is like brand new. I'm going to take out that taxi light there, so I should probably move a little bit more out of the way. Actually, I probably shouldn't land right on the center line in case my AI wants to come and go. Let's move over here a little bit. So anyway, this is a great helicopter. Works very decent in Prepared version 3. The only thing is there's no panel lighting. That doesn't seem to work. And the sounds are not really accurate for this helicopter. So that's the only downside, is it doesn't sound like a Dolphin. It doesn't have that, you know, kind of sound that thing makes. That really is a real staple of that helicopter. So where's my Xbox controller here? Oh, Pathfinder, you have that Samsung 40. Yeah, it's a great. It's at the local Fry's, and there's one at Best Buy. And sometimes I just stand in front of it because I look at my desk, and my current computer monitor is. Oh, I gotta turn off my track IR. My current. You know what? Is this thing gonna make a lot of noise? Should I turn off those rotors? Maybe I should. Do that the cheap way, just in case that noise starts getting on people's nerves. I don't know if you can even hear that or not. And I need to actually speed up chase plane here. Give me just a second. So that this camera moves a little bit faster. Yeah, so for flight simulation, I know that monitor will do really well. I mean, every year at Flight SimCon, we see the 4K Walmart screens that everyone buys and then returns them after. And the thing with that is, those do... No, I didn't pull the rotor brake, Calvin. The thing is... The thing with those things is they do look good, and they do work well with Flight Simulator, because Flight Simulation, things don't need to move all that fast. The thing is, though, is I do gaming, so anything outside of racing gaming, like anything that doesn't really work with Oculus, like first-person shooters, stuff like that, all that kind of stuff, you do need a very low input and a high refresh rate to be able to get those frames, especially in 4K. So you have that chroma, chroma 444, whatever they call it, and you have the 4K. So in order to really get high frames at those resolutions, you definitely need a monitor that can handle that. Otherwise, what happens is if you're gaming live, how did I get back into this again? I said I was done talking about this. But if you're gaming live, you wind up at a disadvantage because someone will be able to shoot you down before they can because everything on screen is moving faster for them than it is for you. So if you have a low input, if your input lag is really high, let's say your input lag is like 18 or 24 or 30, as the case is with most of these cheap screens, well, if you're playing against someone who has an input lag of say 10, they get to turn around and shoot you a lot faster than you can them. And I know a lot of the stuff is like fractions of a second, but again, that's something that they have that's a benefit over you, and so that hurts your skill a bit. And I take my shooting game seriously. So yeah, I take all that in consideration. I've got the Xbox. Well, I don't say my kid. He's got the Xbox One and the 360 and all the PlayStation. He's got all that crap, that spoiled brat. And I'm not into any of those games. I never use the Xbox. The only game, honestly, that we have in our house that I enjoy is the Nintendo Wii, because I like playing Super Mario Brothers. That's a lot of fun. If you guys have that, where you have the little screen there. So there'll be two of us with controllers and the other one with that big handheld, that touchscreen thing. It's a lot of fun playing Super Mario with 3 people with that. And then I still like to play tennis and all that stuff because I'm old, right? So anyway, this little area here that we're looking at, and welcome to the stream, Julian. This little area that we're looking at here, if memory serves me correctly, so when this terminal was first designed, I think the architect was so focused on the design of it that there was a lot that he didn't take into consideration in terms of being able to expand it, which is kind of an issue now because right now they want to expand the terminal, but I think they're only going to be able to do it on one side because you have the hill on the other side, which screws with the symmetry of the architecture. So that's one thing that they're trying to figure out right now. The other thing was he didn't really take into consideration having an arrivals level. So when you exited, there really wasn't much space, I think, for customs and all that stuff. So they had to expand like a little glass area, I think, anyway, the whole thing is kind of weird. And then there's the parking lot and all that. And so it's very interesting how all of this stuff had to be built into the hill. Very interesting. So I don't remember if they go underground and then they come up to this glass canopy area where you exit or something like that. You guys that know this airport better than me can kind of give me a better understanding of how all that works. But yeah, so a lot of this had to be built into the hill so that the architect could fulfill his vision. So and little flickering textures there. So in looking at the landside work here, the lower levels are left to the photoreal. I've shot down the developers here a couple of times already with the sceneries, with the city. Am I going to shoot them down for this area, or am I going to give them a pass? I feel like this area could still be a little bit better. You can see here where the hand-painted and texture roadways here, if you can see the mouse there, I'm not sure, this is all kind of done hand-painted, but then it quickly gives way to the photoreal as it works its way out. And these are things that you definitely can see from the apron area. Because when a lot of people shoot me down, they go, well, DeAndre, look, you can't see that crap from the airplane. So does any of that really matter? In this case, you actually can't, so maybe it does. But I would have liked to have seen this bit just stretch all the way out. This area down here, you definitely can't see from the apron area. So I won't shoot that too much, but again, when you take in consideration the price of the scenery, I think that definitely still could have been hand-painted. That's one of those things like, for example, Jared, he really killed that parking lot in Innsbruck, didn't he? That's what I call a thorough job. And in that case, the entire city was done in exquisite detail. So When you look at the price differences and you look at what's done well versus what could be done better, this is certainly an area. If you consider taking consideration the price, I would say this could have all been hand painted down here as well. I know that developers, they all have their own, I think, method in terms of what they determine is feature creep versus what they think is absolutely necessary. So, there were some features that I pointed out as well that I thought were absolutely necessary that maybe they thought was feature creep, but one of the developers here said that it is something that they're looking to put into a future update. And I'll get to that in a minute. So right now we're looking at the land side of the terminal, just kind of looking at the texture work here. And one of the things you can see, actually I won't comment on that just yet. Kind of looking at the textures here though, there's no specular mapping. There's no doors here for where the doors would be. Again, this is DeAndre's review, so a lot of people probably wouldn't quite necessarily give a shit about where the doors are to enter the terminal because you're not entering the terminal. But this could definitely have a little bit more detail. You can see here this is a very low resolution sort of texture work done on this end here. So again, this is something that could have been done better and could have been given that dynamic specular mapping as well. Let's go ahead and move around over to the air side here. As far as the modeling goes, the modeling looks very accurate from what I can see here. By the way, I didn't mention this too when I started off the stream. You guys know that whenever I say stream that I'm never really on time, right? So one of my excuses was I woke up to my phone telling me that O.J. Simpson was he was getting his was he granted parole? He was given let me see. Oh, he's been granted parole. Wow. Okay, he'll be released in October. I've never seen a parole hearing live. It's like this whole guy's life is like a entertainment spectacle, isn't it? So, I get these alerts because I always want to know what's going on, when I wake up. Even 9/11, for example, at the time I had a television that automatically cut on at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I literally woke up to the events of 9/11 because my TV, at the time, this big Zenith, if you guys remember that brand, this Zenith 30-inch TV would cut on across from my bed, or actually I slept on a futon back then. I was a bachelor in a studio, and that thing would turn on automatically. And so anyway, my phone gives me all my news alerts, so it's like, okay, O.J. Simpson parole hearing, watch live. And I'm like, is that a joke? So I'm actually literally watching this guy give his parole hearing live, and boy, is that interesting. Holy crap, that's just so weird. Like, you watch this stuff in movies all the time, but that's weird. So anyway, I was watching there, and I'm like, damn, I got to start the stream. But meanwhile, I'm like, this is so entertaining. So I didn't get to finish it because I'm like, people are waiting. So I didn't get to finish it. Right when his daughter started tearing up and all that stuff, I was like, all right, I'll turn it off. Anyway, so you can see here, they actually added some transparent glass here. You can kind of see through the terminal a little bit. That's a very interesting feature to add that down here. Because it's like, okay, I wonder if anyone will pay attention to that. That's definitely something you can't see from the air side. That's for sure. That's just interesting that they added that. That's really interesting. Doesn't appear to be much detail down here. There doesn't really appear to be much of any detail down there, but that's interesting that it was added. Or I guess maybe you can see it a little bit from the other side because you can see there's an aircraft on the other end, so maybe that's why it was done that way. Very interesting there. Again, taking a look at the textures here, there doesn't appear to be any. Is there? Let me see. Yeah, there is. It's kind of subtle on the glass here, but you can see there is some reflection there. You can kind of see it a little bit. It's very subtle, just in how the glass here was rendered. But yeah, you definitely can see it there, not in the front. And not here. So, or can you? I think I can a little bit, but it's so subtle that it's almost like it's not even there. It looks very matte. Is this even transparent? This is actually transparent, isn't it? Yeah, that is transparent. This is kind of odd the way this was done. It is transparent. So we're looking, believe it or not, at transparent sort of glass here, but there's no specular mapping, so it's kind of like, it's kind of odd how you look at it. That's interesting the way that was done. Let's move around to the side here. I'm being very critical of this airport because it is an architectural masterpiece, and me loving architecture the way I do. Okay, so this looks pretty nice now. Now, one of the things that I couldn't really tell, okay, we've got some flickering textures. I should note, the flickering textures could be because of chase plane. You do get Z fighting or Z bias with chase plane because of how the camera is done, so I should definitely note that the flickering could be as a result of this and maybe not necessarily due to the terminal itself. In fact, I'm willing to bet that's what it is, because if we go back to the helicopter, oh no, I do still see it. Okay, never mind. It doesn't look like it is part of that. Okay. So yeah, there does look like some flickering textures here. But one of the things I couldn't tell is whether or not there was internal modeling here. So you can actually see here, they did. And I should also note that they did capture the color of the windows pretty accurately, because these colors are dark. And the funny thing is you guys know how much I am about, did DC6, did PMDG release the DC6? Awesome. I'll get to that after today's stream. So anyway, news brief for those watching the stream live, or on the news page live, the PMDG DC6 has been released. I'm actually going to get that. All right, so taking a look here. So yeah, they did. I was wondering, because you guys know I love the internal modeling, but I was thinking in this airport is one airport that it may not necessarily be necessary, only because of how the windows are tinted. They really are dark with this airport. And in the Tropical Sim version, I think they made them all like greenish or something in color. So it's an interesting way how this was done, because they've still given you those dark windows, and yet you can kind of still see through them too, which I think is kind of cool. The only downside here, though, that I'm seeing here is the texture, the quality of the textures. It's interesting the way the textures are done here. It's kind of like, it kind of lacks that sort of depth, I think, that we're accustomed to in Flight Tempo and Flight Beam sceneries. And so the question is asked, should this be compared to a Flight Temp or a Flight Beam scenery? And maybe I'll say no. Maybe it doesn't need to be, because even though this falls under the Orbx brand, you do have to take into consideration whom the developers are. So, could I compare them to, say, maybe Jetstream designs as an example, because this is equal in size to a lot of the Jetstream airport sceneries that we see. And so, and to that regard, the textures could be better. It does look very low resolution here. And so, for me, is it because for optimization purposes, or is this the best texturing we could see, or that they're capable of? So that's one question I would definitely kind of point out in this case. And the reason why is because Orbx is getting into larger airports. So a lot of texturing like this and sort of like the regional stuff, I don't tend to harp on too much, but because Orbx is definitely getting into that larger, kind of competing on the areas of these larger airports in different areas around the world, especially in Europe, then I have to kind of start comparing it. When we look at price comparisons and scale comparisons, then I have to start comparing it to what other developers in the same regions are charging, scale-wise and texture-wise. So like your 29 Palms, 29 Palms, that's actually another prime example. 29 Palms has done a lot of works for Orbx. And so, again, you take a look at what they've done, and the texturing is still a lot better, especially looking at price-wise. Now, looking at this jet bridge, again, we're still seeing the ground doesn't appear to be there. Or is it there? It's like it's transparent. It's solid at the bottom, but transparent at the top. This is something that definitely, as a beta tester, I would have pointed out. So you can see there, you can kind of see the ground through these glass jet bridges here. Again, the modeling is superb, so definitely no issues at all there with the modeling. I also think that when it comes to the glass, down here as well. Again, I would have put a little bit more emphasis in detail where doors are. Specular mapping, I would have definitely brightened that up a bit in that area as well. As far as the glass textures themselves, there's, again, you have this sort of, like, I'm not sure what that is. There's some kind of like texture pixels here or something like that. And there are cases where we've seen glass rendered very well where you still can kind of see the specular mapping and reflection and stuff, and we just don't really see it all that much here. So in the upcoming service pack, I would definitely add some shine to this because it has a very matte appearance. Again, I like how this was done in a sense where you don't need to get into a whole lot of detail here. You can see there's seats there. You can see there's some shadow of people. That's all very nicely done. I like the way that was done. It's just the way the glass is textured itself. You can kind of see they kind of captured it a little bit here in this lighter glass. You see how they've done it there. So you can kind of see it there, but you don't really see it up here. And so I would say in an upcoming service pack, I definitely put more emphasis on the glass there as well as down here in these other areas where there is no transparent glass. Looking at the jet bridges. Again, modeling, they've got the modeling down really nice. Definitely liking the GSC here as well. And we've got our people flow, which is a staple that I always love with Orbx is, the people flow is the difference between an airport and an airport that's alive. The animated people flow, animated vehicles, that really brings an airport to life. Very nicely done there. Looking at the ground poly here. Let's kind of back off of that a little bit. Ground poly definitely looks very decent. Lots of dirt and grime there. So I like that it doesn't look new. It's definitely very nicely detailed in terms of the ground markings and everything, and it doesn't look new. It looks very worn, which is a good thing. And you can also make out parking position markings as well. Now, I think this guy is one of my AI, isn't it? Yeah, I think the Air Europa and the Vueling here is, I think those are definitely my AI. I think, is that Hop AI as well, or is that part of the static? I know, yeah, you can definitely see the differences between, so these two guys over here are static. I'm not sure if that Hop is or not. I gotta take a look at that in a minute. So the only thing really to point out is just there's this weird sort of texture, like, it doesn't look very smooth. I'm just not sure how that is. It's very interesting. I don't really quite remember the Tropical Sim version all that well. It's been so long. I remember it was white, so I think in their case, I think they went with kind of a pristine white as far as their textures go. If I remember it clearly, and all the windows are kind of green. I like how this whole area up here was done. This is pretty cool. And I think maybe the developers here, maybe they weren't trying to just make it look so pristine white and kind of give it some, some grime. And the terminal's been here sitting in the elements for a long time, so they don't want it to look too clean. And I think maybe that's what they're trying to do here, is to not make it look too white and too clean. The way the shadows are done here, very dark. You lose a lot of detail, I think, in the shadows here, the way that's so dark. I don't necessarily, I think that's just how the shadows are done. Could be wrong. Let's see. Yeah, that's just kind of how the shadows are done. It's like almost a little too dark a little bit. But so in the spire here, and this is one of the things that we were talking about as well. I'm not sure which developer is here. I know one of them is watching. But, there's a lot of light. So, for example, and this is a perfect example. So for those of you who caught the live stream that I did over in Agadir, which, by the way, Jetman really, Sasha, he really killed that airport. Oh, my God, that airport's beautiful. Agadir Al Mazrah scenery that was recently released by FS Development Group. If you've seen that stream, on the apron, there's a large airport logo that is greeted when you exit your aircraft and walk to the terminal building. And so that was one of the things that really impressed me, is that, you know, the way the logo is lit at night, but the way that the lights are situated underneath that logo. You'd have to go back and watch that stream. All the lights were added that are kind of pointed up and reflected at that logo. So here, under the spiral, there's actually a lot of details here, because this is how the apron is lit. If you look around here, there are very few apron lights. You've got one over here at that end. There's one down there. And is there one down here somewhere? And there's one down here at the end. There's one over there. So in this terminal, all the apron lights are actually built into the building itself. And then they're focused downward onto the apron. So there's a lot of details here in the spire that just aren't present. And not only that, but it also gives an excellent opportunity to have that volumetric lighting coming from those lights down onto the apron at night as well. That would have been a really cool thing to add. So hopefully that's something that will be included in a future update. I see Calvin's asking me for animated bridges, jet bridges. So yeah, we will get to that shortly. And again, I'm looking at some GSE that I don't think I've seen before. So these are some nice new models that are added down here as well. So again, I mean, capturing the overall look and feel of the terminal, they've definitely nailed it. You know, like this is another example here. These are obviously clearly meant to be steps, but they're not steps. It's just kind of a ramp with some like kind of really oddly looking textures going on here. So the attention to detail, I think overall could definitely be a lot better. You guys know when I review a product, I really get into the attention to detail. And even with my live streams, you know, I'm not overly critical, but this is one of those airports that's like one of DeAndre's airports. So as a result, this gets a little bit more DeAndre attention than general when it comes to my opinions, because this is a DeAndre airport. Certain airports that are really keen on architecture, which I'm an architecture person. I love architecture. So this is one of those areas where I really look in to see what's done well, what's not. I would have extended the apron polygon here. Where's my mouse? You can see there's a seam there. I would have gone ahead and extended that all the way out and encompassed this entire area here. So definitely a lot that could be done better here. And that hop does look like it's part of my custom AI package here. Or if not better, certainly differently. And here we have sort of our overflow parking, our remote parking gates for the aircrafts that maybe are not so lucky to get a jet bridge. Orbx Statics aircraft looking very nice as well. And I'm not sure how far Chase Plane is going to let me cross. And one of the things with the tropical sim version, by the way, where's my fence? Let me make sure my fence is here. You guys know how I am with my fences. DeAndre and his parking lots and his fences. Wow, Chester Benningham of Lincoln Park found dead. Wow, holy crap. I think my fences are here. Let me see, I see one over here. Does that just stop dead up the hill? Looks like it kind of does, huh? DeAndre's fences and his parking lots. Let's see here. So, yeah, and we did get the cargo facilities here. So that's fine. That's all looking nice. And the thing with the tropical sim version, not sure if that fence really encompasses the whole airport, though, does it? The thing with the tropical sim version is I think they used like a lot of generic buildings. I'm really trying to remember that scenery because it's been probably 7 years since I fired up that scenery, since I can remember. Maybe not quite that long, but definitely a long time. And I think they use a lot of like generic buildings on this end of the airport. So I'm really curious to see if these are more accurate buildings, which I think they are. Kind of zoom in here a little bit. There's the control tower. A very unique looking control tower there. And the other apron over there as well. A couple of static helicopters there, and the whole logistics area. So it's going to take me forever to get over there from here. So what I will do is I think I'll grab the helicopter and get over there a little bit faster. I'll do the quick start. And they got the hill sign there as well. So overall, I think if it's one thing that someone might ask, okay, well, does it warrant, should I get this version over the older Tropical Sim version? I definitely think this version looks a lot better. They definitely, I mean, especially from here, like, I mean, from this distance, it looks really good. From this distance, it looks really good. And I think when you're in your virtual flight deck, when you're in your virtual flight deck, I mean, it's going to look very good as well. Aside from the spire, though, there's a lot of missing detail here. And I would remove a lot of that shadow there as well. That black, because it just looks too dark. And in real life, no shadow is really going to be that dark at any time of day other than like nighttime, that it would be that black where the textures are just completely absent. So I would definitely correct that and throw in those lights up there. From this point of the view, though, I mean, it looks absolutely terrific. It's only when you really get up close to those textures do you really start to kind of see, you know, the interesting texture method used. But from here, it looks absolutely gorgeous. I mean, so yeah, I mean, I definitely like this area better than Tropical Sim version. You know, just minus the few things that I've noticed here that could be done better. I also like the grass here too. This looks like a new grass texture for Orbx. I don't think I've seen this grass texture before, but this looks really nice. I like the way that grass texture there is done. And someone's saying, I want you to know the shimmering you see is caused by chase plane. Yeah, I don't think it is, because when I go back into the helicopter out of the chase plane mode, we still see the shimmering. So, and that camera is just the standard camera from the helicopter. So you can see here, even from the flight deck, we still see. So I don't know, maybe chase plane is still somehow causing that. I'm not quite sure, but just from the standard virtual cockpit camera, we can still see that. I'm going to do a quick start here, just to fire up the helicopter really quickly so that we can go over to the other side of the airfield. And after that, I will switch into an aircraft so we can taxi around and take a look at winter textures as well. Is that the other developer there as well? Someone's going to send me something. I'm sorry. You know what? Let me pull this up real quick. I can give our devs a shout out here. I don't typically go to bed until 5 a.m. and then I woke up at 10 for the stream, so that gives you an idea of how many hours of sleep I had after work. And then, of course, before work in a few hours. Where am I? Orbx is getting ready for Open LC South America, which is looking really awesome. Where is it? There we go. Marcus Nyberg and Philip Schall, if I'm pronouncing Schall properly. Marcus Nyberg and Philip Schall. So I'm not sure which one of the two developers are hanging out with us today. But that's the shout out to the two devs that are here. Okay, it looks like our helicopter's ready to roll. And we'll just head over here. Side of the airfield, and in fact, let me move my eye point forward here just a little bit. Let's get out of the cockpit a bit. Look at that long nose on that thing, jeez. Let's get that fat duck dolphin nose out of the way. Alright, there we go. That's better. And then let's swing it around here. And this is the GA portion of the airport. And definitely all custom buildings over here as well. It's really difficult trying to remember that old Tropical Sim version, to be honest. The way I remember it, though, I remember it being like a bunch of their like library, custom library sort of generic buildings. I remember them tossing down here. Oh, and my name is 123 says, just a heads up, you can assign a boost key in chase plane to speed up camera movement in the settings and change how much boost you get. Really handy. You know what? The thing with chase plane is I've not taken any time at all to customize anything. I haven't customized windows, shortcut keys. I've never done any of that. I really should. I just haven't taken the time to do any of it. You know, it's interesting. Whenever I fly, when I do my actual flying, rather than just shortcutting to different cameras, I actually like moving back. If I have a cabin, for example, I actually like to just move around in the cabin with the camera. I just kind of gotten used to doing that. So I've never actually assigned anything to it. I probably should at some point, especially to speed things up in the live stream. So yeah, I'll definitely make a note of that. The texturing on this cargo building is really nicely done. And we've got some new clutter down here as well. Got some static flow ramp guys over there. And of course, Orbx signature static aircraft. Cap Monk or whatever. You can just email me. Aeropuerto de Bilbao. And I guess this is like the GA terminal, I assume. I don't know if any airlines actually park over here. I don't believe so. And I wonder if I guess they didn't use any of the, did they use any of the new Turbo Squid car models here? It's kind of hard to tell. I don't think those are it. They don't look like the ones like that we saw in Vegas. Unless maybe they don't have like any European models. I know they mostly look like American cars. Alright, so let's go ahead and grab an airplane. And I'm going to switch over to winter. And let's take a look at the winter textures and taxi around. The thing with especially with the terminal too, is you can't really get an idea of how it truly looks and get a true feel of its scale until you really see it from the flight deck perspective. Everything always looks different from the flight deck, so we're going to go ahead and switch into that right now. So I'm going to grab, you know, it's funny, I had I finally got to download my repaint for the 717. What's that Spanish airline? Not Spanair, the other one. Really nice livery, and then I forgot to apply it before the stream. So anyway, we'll be looking at the TFDI colors here. And while I load that up, while you guys look at a blank screen, I'm going to try to clear up some memory here. And I'll check my email here in a second. King Prince arrested on King Solomon's order after video appears to show abusive behavior. A Saudi Arabian prince showing abusive behavior. Wow. Okay. Whoa, what's this about Jim Carrey? He looked like crap. Oh, where did it go? Well, there was something about Jim Carrey. Holy, he looked like shit. Oh well, lost it. Valletta, yeah, that's a nice livery. I forgot to apply it though. I don't see any email here, Air Daily X email. I'm not sure what email you sent it to. All right. Anyway, okay, let's go ahead and grab the 717. Oh, brakes. And I'm pretty sure my frame rates are about to drop because I've got all these shadows turned on. I should turn a lot of that stuff off real quick. Especially since I'm streaming here. Yep, that should be good enough. There we go. All right, about a good 35 frames per second, looks like. There we go. Let's get in here. Un momento, por favor. And actually, while I'm sitting here also, while these engines fire up, let me pull up the manual for this as well. Hang on one second. You might see something funky on your screen right now. Give me just a second while I try to find the manual for this. Orbx. User documents. There we go. LEBB user manual. Where are you at? LDDU, LOWI, LGSK. Okay. Why don't I see the manual? Alright, let's try FTX Central. Do I want to start Aerofly or Prepared V3? We'll try Prepared here. Let's see. Global range. There we go. User guide. Click on that. There it is. Okay. I just want to take a quick look at this really fast. Oops, that's the wrong one. There we go. I just want to take a look at this really quickly. Scenery coverage area. The approach in this airport's pretty awesome. Let's see. Okay, so we have all of that on except for dynamic lighting because we don't have prepared version 4 yet, not until next month. And my boy Bill McClintock, 21. He's a man. Let me see here. I don't see anything about jet bridge animation. Installation guide. If you don't have TX Global. So Calvin, you were asking me about jet bridge animation. I was actually not aware of that prior to you mentioning it. So okay. Do I assume if it has SODI, or do I just use Control J? That's a question. All right, so let's go ahead and actually, you know what? Let me change the time and season as well for winter. See if there's winter textures here. Okay, so they apparently are animated. Okay, so how did you animate them? Did you just use Control J? Is that how you did it? Out of curiosity. Okay, let's try that. See if we get snow here. Oh, it's Control J. Okay. Hey, kudos to Orbx that they put in animated jet bridges. So, at the very least, I'm happy to finally see that. A Control J animated jet bridge is better than no animated jet bridge at all. I remember back in the day, I wouldn't buy an airport if it didn't have AES. No AES, no buy. Which, speaking of which, I wonder how that's going. Supposedly he's been working on prepared version 4. I think he got AES Lite working. I'd be really interested to see how that whole project is working out. Post the days of Vista Mare. Those guys just kind of disappeared, didn't they? Don't you hate how, like, people who have developed some of the most amazing things in Flight Simulator have just completely disappeared? Completely? Is there no snow? Why did I think that it does get snow in Bilbao? Maybe I'm mistaken. I know that they get snow in northern Spain, but maybe not in this part of Spain. I don't know why I was under the impression that there would be snow here. But I guess there isn't. You can definitely see, yeah, it looks like the PR was definitely colored as well for this time of year also. I don't know why I thought that there would be snow. But I definitely like the coloration of the PR has changed to that more dull winter texture. Okay, let's see here. All right, let's go ahead and text over to term. I don't know why I thought there was, but okay. Damn. That was too much power. Ouch. Let's see, put that eye point down just a little bit. Stop. Okay, there we go. I'm ready now. Taxi signs are nice too. Quick point out on that. Speaking of which, at Flight SimCon, and I've really got to get around on my Flight SimCon videos, guys. Sorry, I'm really bad at catching up to getting videos and stuff done. This software that I use is such a pain in the butt. But yeah, I've definitely got to get these videos done. But yeah, just thinking back to at the end of the convention after everybody cleared out, and I was still doing my interview with the guys from Fly Inside and testing their flight simulator. And I mentioned before in another live stream that, you know, I know a lot of people are critical, like, why are these guys doing a flight simulator? But the interesting thing is, the flight simulator is really, really interesting. And I'm going to get into in that video why I think their simulator is so interesting. But I got to try out the TFDI 717 in their simulator, and it was just as it is here. It was pretty interesting. So I definitely will have to get into that, because that's I think they're looking for a November release, I think, for their simulator, and I just, all I can say is it is interesting. It is interesting, and once I get into the details of it, I think a lot of you are going to find yourselves being impressed, even if it doesn't look all that great visual wise. But in terms of what it can do behind the scenes, it does things that really put Prepared at Flight Sim World and X-Plane to shame in terms of some things that they've integrated into their simulator. It's a trip. It's a trip. So I will definitely be getting into that soon. But anyway, I was thinking about how I was testing out this aircraft in there. Okay. Oh yeah, from here the terminal looks awesome. Yeah, when you're seeing it from like this distance, it looks really awesome. Even like the way they did the glass, it's like it's more understandable now why they did it the way they did it. Because when you look at it from this distance, from the VC, now on the ground with the terminal at the scale, no, it does. It looks really amazing. But let's get a little bit closer to it again. That shadow there that they have, it just doesn't seem to make sense. I would kill that shadow. I don't know. It's just too dark. It's taken away from the overall aesthetic, I think, of the terminal. That really black dark shadow there. All right, let's pull up to a gate. I mean, from here though, it does. It looks really good. It looks really good. Minus the details that's missing. Obviously, it's still missing some key details, but overall, though, I'm actually really impressed from this perspective, if nothing else. But let's see, where's the line here? There's no one to guide me in, so it's going to be a guessing game pulling up here. See, I always say it always looks different from the VC. That is so weird. It always looks different from the VC, but you can definitely see it definitely looks different once you see it from this perspective. And again, when you're looking up at that spire and missing that detail, here you can still see some of that texture that I don't like, and maybe that's because of how they're shading it. I don't know. You can definitely see the polygons here too. It's not very straight. I don't know if it's exactly the same on both sides. It's kind of hard to tell. As opposed to, like, say, down here, this looks a lot cleaner. So I would definitely clean this up. I would just get rid of the shadow, clean it up to look as it is here, and I think it'll be just fine. I'm not going to pick on the textures from here. I know I was picking on the textures from here a little bit. I'm actually not going to so much now. I mean, when you look at it from this perspective, it really doesn't look bad. We're getting a little bit closer to the terminal now. I'll kind of just stop wherever I think that thing is going to be where the door is. Again, so now that we're closer up to the glass, just kind of looking at it from this point of view, again, I would definitely still add more of that dynamic shine effect to the glass here. They added just the right amount that you can kind of see through, but I would definitely add some more of that shine there. Otherwise, the texture from afar, it looks great. As you get closer, it does kind of look a little bit odd. So I would definitely, I think that's the last thing that would really, I think that this area really needs here, is that shine on there and the detail and that shadow there. Get rid of that. And I think it's actually, you know, I won't make any other big deal. I mean, definitely there could still be more details down in this area. You know, if you look at Flight Beam, for example, and not to try to compare these guys to Flight Beam, but you can see, you know, that little bit of difference that they make when they add the detail to the doors and the windows and stuff down here. It does actually make a difference, because this is all the stuff that you're looking at. This is your primary point of view when you're in this, you know, when you're on your flight deck. So, and the 717, as I gather, would be that, and the The A320, those are two airplanes that I definitely think would be visitors to this airport. I think Valletta flies here, do they? Maybe not. Okay, let's test the jet bridge, huh? So it's just Control J. Let me make sure that the aircraft is in a position where it can accept that. And there we go, an animated jet bridge from Orbx. So as someone said, not very well, but it works. I mean, yes, it is going to damage your fuselage, but it works. So I'm definitely happy to see that it works. Let's take a look at night lighting. And someone's asking, when will we see a simulator using Unigen? Actually, I think we were getting close to a point where we might have, but I don't think it's going to happen now. But at one point, we were actually kind of close to kind of answer your question. Let's see. Are the runway lights on out there? Yeah, they are. Okay, let's apply this time preview. So we have Control J jet bridges. That's great. Really happy to see that. And CPT moniker doesn't seem, or Mocha or whatever, doesn't seem impressed. I mean, you can say all you want, but you could either have this or have static jet bridges, as is the case with every other Orbx airport that has jet bridges. So, you know, I'm not so quick to go because at least this time they did make the effort to do it, which is better than we'd be. I think it's a step in the right direction. So again, I'm happy to see the Control J for sure. Okay, so going back in here, I see a couple of things I don't like. Hang on. All right, so we get a look at a little bit of a look from the flight deck here of the night lighting. Even at night, this textures look even worse. So again, I don't know how you can really make that better. That just looks so odd, the way this glass was done. I'm not really sure how you can change that. What I would do, honestly, is I would probably get rid of whatever this texture that's baked into this glass. I'd probably just get rid of that and go with a solid color that's still semi-transparent or opaque or whatever, you know, semi-transparent, and add greater dynamic reflections on here. And probably get rid of that, because that just looks like weird. I'm not sure what I'm looking at. Other than that, up here, we lose the continuity here. So I would have done up here, if that's transparent, I would take the transparent glass, put it up there as well. Either that or light that up. It doesn't look lit, and so we're looking at some kind of image here. And as you move, I don't know, I don't think it moves. Oh, it is transparent. So why isn't it lit up here as it is down here? That's one area that's confusing. I just realized that it is. If you look, you can see this. It doesn't look transparent, which is oddly enough because of this image that's on this glass material. It's almost as if they've done themselves an injustice, because they've made it transparent, but then they've made it to look like it's not, unless you look at it from just the right angle, looking through another glass, then you kind of see it. So I'd probably get rid of whatever that texture is, because I think that's kind of tearing away from, you know, being able to see. I think maybe they're trying to let you see that the glass is there. If I can try to maybe understand what they're trying to do. For example, if you look at Jawiecki's Warsaw, and they did the internal modeling there, and the problem with that is that most of the time the glass just disappears, and you can't actually see that there's glass there. And then there are some artifacts that kind of bleed through the glass. So maybe what they were trying to do is to make sure that you see, hey, there's glass here, so when you turn your head, you can still see that the glass is there, which is great. I would probably look at what Jo Erland did with Trondheim as an example. He was able to capture that really well, where you can still see the glass. And in the case where these guys have what's the word I'm looking for here? An advantage is that in this case, their window is very dark. In the case of like Trondheim, for example, and in Warsaw, the windows are clearly transparent, which is even worse and more difficult to see them, especially when changing your eye point and changing lighting conditions and so on and so forth. So in this case, because the windows are so dark, especially like during the day, where's my time thing? Especially like during the day, I think this is like, yeah, you can definitely see because the windows are dark. That's fine. I would just go with a solid color texture. Get rid of whatever the squiggly stuff is, and add more, dynamic reflections on there. And I think you can still get away with it because the windows are so dark, as opposed to just really having these transparent windows. And so at night, you don't get these weird looking textures. And then this isn't lit at all. And the other thing too, which is odd, is it makes you wonder, okay, where is the light? So if I turn off, can I turn off my lights on my airplane here? So where are the apron lights? Why is it so dark? So that's the other thing too that makes me kind of worry how this didn't get caught in beta. I'm a little bit confused in that area. I like the volumetric lights here. That's an interesting touch. But there's no lighting at all on the apron, which makes sense because the lights aren't physically there to light the apron. So this whole area at light should be have some kind of light here because the lights are on the pier. They cast light down onto the ramps from the roofs here. And then that's how you get your apron lighting. So the night lighting could definitely be better. Additionally, where there is, like down here where there is light, you've got volumetric lights here, but the apron should still be lit a lot brighter than we're able to actually see here. So this is all a little bit too dark, even where there is light. So kudos on the volumetric lighting, but the ramp here is too dark. And mind you, I haven't seen any of this. This is my first time seeing any of this. So just looking at it now, just as a first impression, it's really, really dark. It's too dark. So yeah, for the upcoming service pack, my recommendation would be to definitely brighten up the ramp. We've got to include the lights up here. You can put your volumetric lighting up here, and that light, you can have it shining down on your ramps, and this should be lit up a lot better. The inside and outside in this area should be lit up a lot better than it is as well. So, it's not my contention to be, to say that the guys are doing a bad job, but, one of the things I always like to point out that I know a lot of developers kind of rely on when they look at my streams is what's working, what isn't working, what looks good, what doesn't. There are some times when, like with MSP, where they get to a point where it's like it's difficult to try to find what they could do better. So at least in this case, with the duo that's worked on this project, hopefully they have an idea of how they can improve, because I can say the project overall looks very good. That very first version of Orlando, I definitely wasn't impressed at all. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't stream it, because you get to a point where I'm streaming and I'm really just beating down on a developer, and I don't want to do a beat down. I at least want to be able to have some nice things to say, and with that scenery I really didn't have anything nice to say. And it really, to me, didn't really fit in as an Orbx product. It just doesn't work. But when you look at what the changes and with this next big update that they're working on, like, I'm really shocked. I'm kind of blown away with these fixes and enhancements and improvements that they're doing to Orlando. So I'm definitely excited about that. I can't wait for that to get released as well, because I'll be able to go in and do a live stream of that scenery. So Marcus is definitely, I'm not that familiar, I think, with what was his name? Was it James Shaw or something like that? I'm not that familiar with his work off the top of my head right now, but I know definitely with Marcus, I know that was his project. And I'll say this, because I never did review that scenery. As As a first time release, and honestly, and I said this literally day before yesterday when I was doing the live stream of Agadir, is, I was saying that you get these developers that show up on FS Developer and they've never done anything ever, and they're like, hey guys, I'm going to do Dubai. Hey, I'm going to do LAX. I'm making JFK. I'm doing Orlando. And I'm like, no, you're not. Bullshit. There's no way you're going to finish that project. And 9 times out of 10, they don't. So in the case with Marcus, I was really skeptical if he would be able to finish that Orlando project, because it was like his very first scenery, and I'm like, you're starting off on a mega airport as a first scenery. So with that said, if you remove the Orbx logo and you take it at face value, just as it is now, he did a phenomenal job. It is amazing for a first release to release an airport like that. He did a great. I am in that retrospect. I'm very impressed. When you put the Orbx logo on top of it, then it all goes out the window, because it's just not really reflective of the Orbx brand. So with that said, with this scenery coming out now, and it's a team, I mean, you can definitely see that with this second release, I mean, I am definitely impressed with the modeling abilities. There was a lot here that was done really well. But I think with just a few changes and improvements, this could be spectacular. I'm first of all glad to finally see someone is looking at Bilbao, because it's an airport that is really beautiful, and it's situated in an area that it's not just your typical boring flat approach. It's got a very interesting approach into the airport. You're surrounded by all these beautiful hills on all sides. And so many developers have overlooked it over the years. Tropical Sim, obviously, they pulled it out of their hat, and they were doing a lot of stuff in Portugal, and so maybe for them it kind of made sense to maybe do Spain. I believe they're a Portuguese team, right? And they do a lot of stuff in Brazil, again, Portuguese. So it was nice to see them go into Spain and do this airport, and so I'm glad that that airport's been out for so long. I'm glad that somebody was looking at it and thinking about it. Because I'd been wondering if anyone was ever going to do this airport again. So, now that these guys have taken it on, I think that this airport right now is, if I were to give it, let's say if we're putting it on a scale of 5 stars, I'm going to give it 3.5. And I definitely think that this airport has an ability to be a 5. There's just certain key areas that really need to be enhanced and corrected, and I definitely think this would be a 5, and I'd be happy to come back and do a follow-up live stream when they go in. So for example, we looked at the city, the harbor and everything, the ships out there, that was all nice. The buildings, they said that they are definitely planning to put accurately modeled buildings on top of the PR, which is good. This is a personal touch, but I'd like to see my Guggenheim get a little bit more special attention. That's just me, though. And again, as far as the airport itself goes, the night lighting could be better. You know what? We didn't look at the runway lighting, which actually I do want to see here. I'm just gonna swing this back out here real quick. It is so dark. I know, I'm going to run you guys over. Sorry. Oh, and this too. Like, what's going on here with this? I'm not sure what's going on there with the textures there as well. So, again, when you look at the price and you compare it to other airports in the region similarly priced, there's a lot that needs to be corrected, and there's a lot that could be done better. I'm going to take a look at the lighting here. Where's the center line? Okay, there it is. Okay, so the center line lighting, edge lighting looks really nice. I'm happy with that. I can find the center line at night, although I don't have my taxi light on. Okay. So night lighting is fine. I can read the taxi lights or the taxiway signage clearly. And I'll just make my way over to the threshold here. Take a look at the runway lights. We need to actually see the lead-ins too. I'll probably just slew back for that real quick. Or maybe I'll take off and kind of fly around and, well, I don't know. I'm kind of pressed for time now. Let's see. So yeah, the taxiway signage is lit really nicely. The edge lighting is nice. Center lighting looks good. You can see the threshold marking lighting there as well. I think we're crossing a runway here. I'm actually being nice and waiting for this guy. Usually I just plow right through them, but I think we're, what is this, Charlie 2. Okay, we should be turning here in a second. There's Charlie 1. So yeah, the taxi lights look really good. So this is 3-0. Come on, Europa. Like a herd of turtles over there. Let's roll, buddy. Speaking of the TFDI, one thing that these guys definitely got to work on next is the lighting for the internal of this bad boy. The flight deck lighting does need a little bit of love. Go, 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 go. Get out of my way. Alright, so let me just slew back here really quickly. And just take a look at the lead in here for the approach. Alright, no chase rabbit. Let's see how this looks further out. So from this point of view, the runway lighting could be a lot brighter too. You can barely see that if you're flying in. Let's see, let's go to the height we should be at from this distance. That could be a lot brighter, a lot brighter. Again, if we just look back at, for example, the Agadir scenery that I previewed day before yesterday, you can see the runway lights were really bright and vibrant on the approach. You can see them clearly. Here, it's like I can barely see the lighting. You know, if you're on approach from this far back, you can't even see the lights at all. So that's one other thing that I would probably be concerned with is, yeah, the runway approach lighting needs to be a lot brighter than it is. I mean, even this close, and I can barely see them. Barely. So yeah, the intensity. Oh, whoa, too far. The intensity of these lights, yeah, that needs a lot of work. How does it look from here? Even on the runway, it's so dim. It's really, really dim. That guy's gonna fly over my head any minute now. Yeah, it's really dim. So that's the other half too, is the night lighting as well. Could definitely use a lot of work. It's fine for the taxi, the edge lights, but for the runway itself, it's just not bright enough. So anyway, perhaps a fairly critical stream today. But again, this is one of those airports that I'm a really big fan of. So, it's one of those areas where, and not only that, but I really want to see these developers do well. But there's just a few things here that's just not really good enough to be ready for release, in my opinion. From here, you can see the terminal building there. The windows look nice. I mean, from a distance, it looks great. But as you get closer, again, there's just some key areas there that definitely could be done better. And so since this is really the first time that I'm really kind of looking at and reviewing a Marcus Nyberg release, along with, is it Philip Shaw, I think it was? So, I mean, I think these guys have a lot of promise working together, and I think they're going to do some really, really amazing things. I just think there are some key areas. If they put a lot of focus and emphasis in these key areas, I think these two guys are going to kill it. They're going to blow it right out of the park, and they're going to do some great things for Orbx. I think both individually and collectively, I think they're going to do some wonderful things. But it's just, yeah, there's definitely some key areas, and I think if they focus on this and they put a lot of effort into getting better in those key areas, I think they're going to do some really, really wonderful things. So overall, do I recommend it? Let's go back over to Orbx and take a look at the product page here. And the other question is would I buy it? So if I'm one of you and I'm watching this live stream and I'm looking at DeAndre's opinion, would I buy it? So let's see. Where is my oops, where'd it go? Nope. Where did it go? Damn. What am I? Global range, right? Yeah. There it is. So it is, what's AUD price? $39.95 AUD. I'm not going to sign into my account from here. So let's go to, what's that website? I forgot what that website is where you do the currency exchange. XE, is it xe.com or something like that? There we go. All right, so let's say, what did we say it was? 39.95. So let's just say 40 Australian dollars to, I don't know how accurate this is right now, but to the US dollar, 40. So it's 31 bucks. 31 bucks, yeah, I'm going to buy it. I would buy this for $31. Naturally, this was provided for me, but yeah, for $31, I would definitely buy the scenery. I mean, number one, it's a nice updated version of the airport. I don't even remember if the Tropical Sim version was even compatible. I can't even remember if it was even compatible or not, to be honest, with FSX. I completely forget. Let me see. Can we look at some screenshots of it? FSX downloads. Let me see if it's even in FSX. Sceneries. Oh, this just goes into Sim Market? Are you serious? Oh, wow. Okay. They just embedded. Oh, it does come from FSX. Okay, I didn't. Let's see. Those Sim Market. I mean, those Tropical Sim cars, man. Those guys got to work on that. Yeah, I definitely get the Orbx version. These guys did do custom buildings over here. I don't know why I thought that they were just mostly like generic buildings. No, they did. Oh, yeah, the Orbx version is blowing this away. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Orbx version is way better. So you can see here, yeah, they did go with like a white and kind of green color. I know I did remember that. It's kind of like white and green. Yeah, the Orbx version is definitely better, hands down. And this airport is really also showing its age too. So yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. There's the little lights up there. You can see them. And then, you know, you get your volumetric light to kind of shine those down a bit. And again, I think this just looks better not being all darkened out by the shadows. It's a beautiful sculpture. I say just let it be, you know. It's a nice white color. Let it be. They call it the swan for a reason, or the dove, I think they call it. So yeah. Yeah, I would. You could see though here, Tropical Sim put a lot more detail into this area. In fact, let me see that for a second. Oh shoot! Where's my chase plane? That's actually a good question. I think there's missing detail in this scenery. I'm gonna have to pull up Google Earth real quick. I don't remember seeing that a little bit. Oh shit, I should turn off that taxi light. Hang on a second. Where is it? There we go. That's good enough. Hang on a second. I'm curious now. Let me go back over here. So, unless there's been some changes to the airport, because I'm looking at the entrance here, and then I look at the Tropical Sim version, and I'm looking at all of these support columns here. Additionally, you can see the detail underneath, and none of that detail is down here as well. Google Earth time. Unless there were some changes and all that was removed. Where is it? It's up here somewhere. Of course, here too, you can see the difference in terms of if all of this had been included with the scenery. Look how big of a difference that makes. You know, this, like, for example, if you take into consideration like what Jared did with Innsbruck, look at the level of detail here versus what was actually done here. You can see there, it's quite a big difference. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to really, this airport could really be just insane if, you know, they do decide to include you know, kind of the rest of this. You know, that's why I say, like, people be like, I don't give a damn about parking lots. But again, it makes a big difference, though. You do have to admit. And additionally, none of this was really included as well, and this is still sort of attached to the airfield side here as well. So, you know, this area could have been all, you know, done a little bit better. But I'm trying to see here. I don't know if the struts, if it was something that was removed or what. The truth is, I don't know. I don't know if there's a, is there a street view here? Oh, there is. Yeah, okay. So you can definitely see here, there's a lot of missing detail here. And I'm looking at this overhang. Let me see. The overhang is definitely there. But you can see here, it's not, this is glass up here. And down here it's not. So, you know, look, it's on the land side of the airfield, and a lot of people probably wouldn't care. The thing is this, you know, and I go back to the very first review, I think, where I pointed this out. I think it was Latin VFR. What was that airport? in Venezuela, Caracas. And the land side of that airport was just like non-existent. And I can certainly understand, where am I on time? I can certainly understand where many people probably wouldn't care. But my thing is this, if you're paying $30 or $40 for a scenery, or even if you're paying $20 or $15 for a scenery, you should be getting a full scenery. So if you buy the airport, it's just my opinion that you should get the full airport and not just what you can see from the ramp side. That's just my opinion. A lot of us like to get helicopters and fly around and slew and do all this stuff, but you should get the full airport. So, I mean, in this case, there's just so much missing that, it's almost disappointing, to be honest. So, in this case, I would definitely like to see a lot more attention done in this area, not just for the sake of eye candy, but just for the sake of accuracy. Because right now, the way I see it, it's in this area, it's really grossly inaccurate. I mean, you can see how short this whole model is actually inaccurate. You can see how short the walkway is, and I'm not really sure how that was missed. You've got this huge sidewalk area here, and there's just so much more detail here, and it's completely like not even the same building. So anyway, so there's definitely a lot that can be improved here, a lot. Again, they've got the feel of it right, and I think even if they don't focus on that, which is not really the big thing that they need to focus on, from the air side, they got this right. So right now, I think it's just if you put a little more effort or focus into the quality of the glass, the windows, make them a little bit more reflective, and then the night lighting. Really, the night lighting needs a huge bump, and then the town tube, which they said they're focusing on. So I'm not going to really harp on that anymore. But again, I think it's a product. Even knowing this, would I still buy this? I actually would still buy it, even knowing that, because it is a nice rendition update to this airport. So yeah, and given the fact that we know that they're going to bring some updates and stuff, and they've included the city and all that, and you do get that approach, which the tropical sim version you don't get. So especially when you're coming in over the harbor and over the city, they've included all that. So there's definitely a lot to be taken into consideration in that regard. So yeah, this is definitely an airport I would buy, but I would buy it with expectations that, a lot does need to be corrected. So you do still have these flickering textures and stuff like that. So overall, I do like it, but definitely a lot that needs to be done to make it great. And I think that this scenery has the potential to be super great. And, I would use this as an opportunity if I were the developer on this airport. I would definitely use this as the opportunity to work on those key areas here, make this scenery great, so that way when they go on to their next airport, they already know at the very least. Now listen, other people are going to review this airfield, and they might disagree with my findings on it. And so on and so forth. But at the very least, I think the developers, if they can focus on those areas, make this one great, because then I have no doubt whatever these guys are going to do, again, either collectively or individually, it's going to be badass. If they can get it corrected here, then it's going to be badass. So, I mean, there's definitely a lot of talent here. And certainly, I'm definitely pleased with Marcus in terms of, seeing him on FS Developer a couple of years ago versus, what he's accomplished up to this point. I definitely think he's gonna be going places in this community, and he's gonna be doing really great things. And I think it definitely needs to start here. The key example is the first release of Orlando versus the changes that he's now making to that scenery. So. And again, I think those changes, there's some changes that need to happen here as well. So, with that said, I'll have to be getting ready for work soon. I'm going to have some breakfast. I hope it was a fun stream for you guys to watch. Again, I definitely like the scenery. It definitely has good performance as well, which is another important thing. To take into consideration as well. So again, I think if you just go back, review the stream, look at all the little key points that I pointed out, I think if those developers focus on those areas, this is going to go from a scenery right now that I see is a decent scenery. It's decent, but it can go from decent to amazing, and I certainly hope that that is something that these developers are going to put some focus in. So, with that said, today is Thursday. I've got a lot going on. The next live stream is going to be Riddles Bellingham, and I might do that either tonight or tomorrow. So keep an eye on airdailyx.net for those updates, and I will see you all here for the next live stream. Take care, everybody.